Hello, and welcome to Japanese Craft Beer Reviews. Today we're going to look at a beer that is kind of special. The brewery is located in Belgium, and it's kind of a classic brewery. It was Michael Jackson, the British writer, not the pop star. Michael Jackson sort of discovered Belgian beer for the British and the Americans in the 1970s, 60s, and 70s when he visited there and started writing about them. And this is one of the breweries that really impressed him. It's called Rodenbach, and we're going to look at 4 different beers from Rodenbach. And the first one will be the classic Rodenbach, and then we'll look at the Grand Cru. And then we'll look at a kind of special one called Alexander, and then finally a beer called Frutage. And but very briefly about the Rodenbach Brewery. It was the first Rodenbach. You notice the name doesn't sound particularly Belgian. And in fact, the first Rodenbach came from Germany as a military doctor during the time when Belgium was ruled by Austrian Empire, and they kind of set down and made roots in Belgium, and then the brewery was developed in 1820, or bought by the family in 1820, and it's located in West Flanders in the town of Roeselare. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it exactly. Roesale. I'll show you a map here of it. And the brewery stayed in the family until 1998 when it was sold to Palm. And now it apparently is owned by a group called the Swinkle Family Brewers. And they make a variety of beers, not too many. But again, the first one is the Rodenbach Original, which is now called Classic, and then Grand Cru at 6.4%, and then a number of vintage beers that they make. They put out in limited editions there, and Vin de Céréales, which is a 10%er, quite strong, and Character Rouge, which is macerated with cherries after some aging, and Alexander, and then Frutage, and we're going to look at 4 of those now. What they're most famous for is the use of oak foeders, which are not cask, but they're huge, called tuns, T-U-N, and they're massive. The biggest one, or the average one, hold like 4,700 gallons of beer. And the beer is primarily, I think, fermented in steel first, and then aged in these oak foeders. And here are some pictures of them. They're absolutely huge. And Rodenbach is the only brewer that relies completely on those foeders to age their beers. Some of them are 150 years old, and they have, here's a trivia question for you, 294 of them in the brewery currently. And they became famous over the years for not only that, for use of these massive foeders to age their beers, but also supplying yeast to places like Westvleteren and Dedale. So they did a lot of work with other breweries as well. The oak foeders, of course, what they do is these are used over and over and over, and of course over the years they've developed their own varieties of microflora, primarily Pediococcus and in some cases Brettanomyces. And the Pediococcus will give a kind of tart, sort of astringent note to the beer. And so let's look at 4 of these beers in turn from Rodenbach, a very special brewery, and I'm really happy to review them now for the first time. All right, and the beer we'll look at now is a very special one from Rodenbach. It is called Rodenbach Alexander. And you might say, who is Alexander? Well, Alexander was an early Rodenbach, and this beer was made to celebrate Alexander Rodenbach's 200th birthday. And this is what's special about this beer is the cherries in it, and I'll talk about that in a second. This beer is based on the Rodenbach Grand Cru beer, which we've looked at in another video, and so basically it's a 1/3 young beer, and which was macerated with sour cherries. In other words, they took these sour, they call it Creek cherries, sour cherries, and smashed them up and added a little bit of sugar to it and extracted the juice and put this into the young beer, and then 2/3 older beer, aged beer, so generally 2 years old beer, aged in oak foeders, and combined these two, and the average age is 18 months. So 2 years, and then the young one 6 months, and so the average age is 18 months. The sourness level for this, they claim on their website, is 3.5 out of 5. Okay, so what the ingredients in this beer are, of course, the Rodenbach Grand Cru, of course, and it is, of course, based with water, barley malt, maize, corn, and juice of these Creek cherries, and some fructose, sugar, and hops, and of course yeast. And of course the foeders add their own component. The lactic component in the beer generally comes from Pediococcus, from the barrels. 6% alcohol by volume and 9 IBUs according to the website, so pretty low on that here. And this bottle claims to be 5.5%, so I'm not sure if it's a different version or not from the older one listed at 6. 498 yen, where I bought it, approximately $4 US. And these are the newer bottles. Generally, these brewers from Rodenbach came in larger format bottles, 750 milliliters, and that now they're bringing out their basic beers in smaller bottles, and this is a 330 milliliter bottle. Rate beer, 1,440 ratings when I checked, 4.1 average score, which is very high, and 100th percentile for all beers on Rate Beer, and 100th percentile for its style, which is a sour Flemish ale or Flanders red. And so this has should have some interesting flavors in it here. I'm interested. I haven't had this for quite a while, and it just suddenly appeared at some liquor stores along with some other beers from Rodenbach. So let's give this one a go. Rodenbach Alexander, who is one of the forebearers of the Rodenbach family in Belgium. Okay, it has a very, very nice, very pretty red color. It's not quite as dark as the Rodenbach Grand Cru, but I think you can see the carbonation rising there. Hard to see. And very thin head. Oh my, okay. Okay, it does quite vinegary. Definitely we get the sour fruit, the sour cherries. Definitely has the Grand Cru character, the sourness of the fruit. Kind of tart in the sinuses. Okay. All right. As expected, definitely it has the Grand Cru character, but the sour cherries really, really take over from the start. It has a kind of retronasal bit in the mid palate, which I associate with lambics. Lambics often give you that kind of mid palate thing, and they rush up into your sinuses and then fade away. Beautiful, beautiful, and it sounds bad, cough drops, but basically cherry cough drops. The cherry flavor is quite exceptional in this. delicate at first, intensifies in mid-palate, and then slowly fades away. Some moderate astringency on the tongue. It kind of grabs the tongue. Something similar to what tannins do in a red wine. So you feel this beer. This is beautiful. Absolutely exceptional. Smooth, rich. Flavors don't stop. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and gradually fades away. This is absolutely exceptional. I think you should. This is a beer you definitely need to try if you have not had it yet. It is, again, 100th percentile for all beers on Rate Beer, and 100 for its style, of course, Flanders Red. And this is kind of the peak, I think, for me. This and the Grand Cru are two exceptional beers from Rodenbach. So once again, 6%, or this bottle 5.5%, and 9 IBUs, an absolutely beautiful cherry-flavored Grand Cru from Rodenbach. Please do give them a go. Subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think about Rodenbach, what you've had from them, and just leave me, leave me a line, and hope to hear from you. Stay healthy. Bye bye.